Okay, so it's great to see everyone back. New season, it was nice to drive here when it was light outside, and the trees all blooming. It's a beautiful time of year. And this is also the time of year that we try to work on ourselves. This is the time period of Sfirat HaOmer, where we are counting every day from Pesach until Shavuot. And it's interesting, just today I had a cleaning, a tooth cleaning, but it was a deep cleaning. Anyone ever did deep cleaning?
Yes.
Okay, so they numb you when you do it. Like, so one side was deep cleaned and the other side I'm going back tomorrow. And it's just interesting how you always brush your teeth. Every night you brush your teeth, but once a year or whenever it is, you do, or every 3 or 6 months you do a cleaning, and sometimes you do this deep cleaning where you really get into underneath the roots, to the roots actually, and really clean out any gunk that's there. And this is the idea of Sfiras HaOmer, where we really try from the time period from Pesach until Shavuot, we try to really get deep into the psyche of the person and try to clean it out and try to prepare ourselves to receive the Torah. And interestingly, sometimes when you're working on that, different qualities, and we're going to go through the different qualities, but when you're working on those qualities and working on yourself, sometimes it could be numbing, it could be painful, it could be a little difficult, but that's part of the process, and for part of the day, I was like, I couldn't feel out of my mouth, but now everything's back to normal, but this is part of the process, you uncover something and you really need to get into it, and it's important every once in a while to do that introspection. So we say every day a person is supposed to do a little bit of a cheshbon hanefesh, where you do this calculation before you go to sleep at night. You think about what you can do perhaps better tomorrow, or how you can work out different things, and so throughout the year we have these different time periods. Erev Rosh Chodesh is supposed to be, again, a small time when we start thinking about the things that we need to do and take control of our lives. And of course, before Rosh Hashanah, we have that whole time period, but this is as well a time period between Pesach and Shavuot, is that Sfirat HaOmer time period where we're trying to work on ourselves, trying to work on our qualities. There's 7 weeks, and each week we do a different quality, and we're going to talk about the different qualities as well in a little bit. A story is told of a people that were living in a very deep valley, and they were surrounded by all these mountains, kind of like Pomona, right? But the valley was very, very deep, and because it was surrounded by all these mountains around it, there was constantly this mist over it, and the mist did not allow in the light, and it was very cold and dark there. And the people who lived there were feeling like, this is it, this is life, this is what life is, so dark and misty, and there's no such thing as a sun, because we've never seen a sun. And the elders of the community used to tell them that there really is a sun, there's a sun beyond, that actually can sometimes peek through and brighten and there's a world beyond the world that we're living in that's not a dark world, and that's not a cold world. And once in a while people would hear the elders say this, and they would actually try to climb out of this valley to get to this place where the elders are talking about, that's beyond this darkness. But inevitably they didn't know the route, how to go, where to go. There was no GPS in those times, there's no maps. So eventually they would give up and come back. But one day, there was this tremendous big wind, and the wind blew so strong that much of those clouds and the mist that was covering the entire valley kind of spread out for a few minutes, and out peeked the sun. And the people could actually see, wow, look at that, there is a sun. It's actually true. There's a world beyond the darkness. There's a world beyond the coldness. There's a sun that brings light and brightness and warmth. And that must be the world beyond this world of the valleys. And when the people saw that, that gave them the impetus to say, you know what, we're going to find that land. We're going to find that place, because we're tired of living in this darkness. We're going to get out and actually find it. And this is a metaphor to what actually happened to the Jewish people in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. They were surrounded by such darkness for such a long time. And it was so dark, and it was so difficult and so harsh. And the elders would say to them, no, there's God promising to take us out, and we're going to go to this mountaintop, and we're going to be receiving the Torah. And it sounded nice, but there was, of course, no way out. They didn't know a way out, how to get out. But came the night of Pesach, and God kind of showed, he dispersed the clouds, and he gave them this light, this vision of there is something there is something beyond. And that was the impetus to help them to figure out, okay, how are we going to get out? But they couldn't actually completely get out without God's help, of course. Now, God could have just taken them out. He showed them the way. He could have taken them out, but he wanted some of that to be their own effort. He wanted them to feel like they owned it. Because when you own something, when you do something on your own, you feel like a sense of accomplishment. So God showed them that there's a way out, but the time period between Pesach and Shavuot is that time period when we work on ourselves and we try to climb out of this place. The vision of the fact that we're going somewhere helps us to get there, but we're actually trying to climb out of this place. In today's times, we feel the darkness so vividly, and we're just talking about it, especially tonight is the night of Yom HaShoah, so we're feeling so much the darkness all around us. And the only thing that really could keep us in this time is because of the fact that we have that vision. We know that we're getting out of here. We know that we have the promise, we have the vision, we know that we have the actual map of what's going to happen, and things are happening exactly as they are supposed to be happening, as bad as it is. And it's knowing that we're getting out of it, knowing that we've gotten out in the past. We've gotten out of the difficult situations. We keep celebrating all these holidays that celebrate the fact that they hated us, they tried to kill us, they tried to enslave us, and we got out of there. We keep, of course we eat, right? We eat, and we keep eating. But we keep celebrating that over and over, whether it's Pesach or Purim or Hanukkah. I mean, the Jewish calendar is full of them. But we also know that this time is going to be different, because there's a time where we have the map already set out for ourselves, where we're going to get a redemption that is the redemption that's going to be a permanent redemption, not like any of the previous ones that were temporary. And again, we went into exile, and again, God hid his face. We're doing it for a purpose. And the reason why it's taking as long as it's taken is because God wanted us to have our part. He wanted us to do the climbing, us to do the trekking, us to do, so that we can feel at the end like we've accomplished something, that we've done our part and we've worked our part. And now that we've done all our part, the time is already ready. It's already overdue. And it's already time for that to happen. But what we're seeing is just what we're constantly seeing. The fact that we're seeing it, when we wake up sometimes, and it's unbelievable. You look at the world the way it is, and it's a crazy world. Like, what's going on? As we were just talking, like, what doesn't make any sense? The way that people are reacting again, the way that they're treating Jews again, the anti-Semitism again, the fact that they don't let us even defend ourselves again, like, it's just over and over. We say history repeats itself, but this is part of the script, this is part of the narrative. But we do have that vision, we do have that splitting of the clouds, thank God, and it's that vision that can keep us, the vision that we know that we're getting to somewhere. In Egypt, it was to Mount Sinai. We know we're actually getting to the conclusion of this whole path, of this whole long trek, this whole long journey that we're on. And that journey is going to end with the redemption, with Mashiach. And the only way that we can really get through this darkness and make any sense of it, because how in the world are people acting this way in modern society? It just doesn't make any sense. How to have people lost their minds? The only way that we can get through this is knowing this is part of the script. It says this is what's going to be happening, and it has happened over and over and over again, and we're waiting for that final time, and we are going to get to that final time. So that's on a more cosmic level, on a more national level. now on a personal level, let's go into what can we do as far as we as human beings can what can we do to accomplish that journey from where we started to get to actually Matan Torah, from the Passover that we've all just celebrated with the matzah that we've all eaten, with our pounds that we've all gained, and now get to the point of actually reaching Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah. And the way that we do it is that we go through this month. We are starting actually a new month. It's called the month of Iyar.
Yeah.
And Iyar has a beautiful acronym to it. It's Aleph Yud Yud Resh, which also stands for Ani Hashem Rofecha. I am God, your healer. That's why I said it's a good month for healing. This is a time for healing. If anyone is sick, we should all wish them a refuah shlema. This week is Rosh Chodesh Iyar, so it's a month of healing. It's a month where God is healing us. We came out of Egypt and we came out a broken people, and God healed us, and this is a month of healing. Interestingly, the month of Iyar, the word Iyar also is an acronym for Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Rachel. Rachel.
Because she's the mother.
Because she's the mother, and because she had all of these four people had a certain holiness in that they were in Kabbalistic terms they were called the Markava, which means a chariot, which means that just like when you ride a chariot, the chariot itself doesn't have a will of its own. It's following, or in today's terms, it would be the car. Does the car have a will of its own? Does the car know where it wants to go? Well, some of them do. Today, yeah. I mean, I guess if you're buying, thanks to the Teslas, right? But my car certainly does it, right? So it doesn't have a will of its own. It's just driving where the driver wants it to go. And that's how some very righteous people, their lives are driven by what does God want of me. And that's really a reflection of these Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and Rachel. Why specifically Rachel and not the others, I do not know, but I'm sure there's a lot more to it, but their whole sense of self was so selfless in just doing the will of the Creator. So that is this month of Iyar. That's the acronym for this month of Iyar. Iyar is also a very special month in that it's the only month of the year where every single day we have a special mitzvah. And that mitzvah is the counting of the Omer. Every single day. And not only is it a mitzvah that, okay, so we eat matzah on Pesach, right? That's a mitzvah. But this mitzvah is, we could eat matzah. I mean, we're commanded to eat it. It happens to be that we're commanded to eat it on the 15th of Nisan. But here, the mitzvah is not that happens to be that we're commanded to count it. The counting is those exact days of Iyar. We're told to count these days of Iyar. So the counting is very much involved with the actual month of this actual month, and the mitzvah is actually counting the days. We count from Pesach until Shavuot. We count, first we say today is the first day of the Omer, today is the second day of the Omer, and once we get to 7, we say today 7 days of the Omer, which is 1 week. And once we get to 15, we'll say today is 15 days of the Omer, which is 2 weeks and 1 day of the Omer. And so we're counting the days and we're counting the weeks, and that's why the holiday that we're counting towards is called Shavuot, which means weeks. Exactly, it means weeks. We're counting towards the weeks. That's why this Shavuot is the holiday of the counting of the weeks. We've counted the weeks, and each of the weeks we're working on, each of the days we're working on, and each of the weeks we're working on a different specific aspect of ourselves that we're trying to purify. It's Kabbalistically says that there's the name of God is Havaya, which is a Yud, a Hey, a Vav, and a Hey, which is the greatest, holiest name of God. And it vivifies, it gives life to the 4 weeks of the month. There's 4 weeks of the month, plus there's a day or two extra, but there's those 4 weeks of the month. So each week is vivified by the Yud, or the Hey, or the Vav, and the Hey. And that's why we say the first part of the month is usually the holier part of the month. It's the, we try, if we're making a wedding, we try to make it at the beginning of the month. first 15 days of the month, because that's the holier part of the month. But in the month of Iyar, the whole month is equal. The whole month is equal because every day we're counting, we're making this mitzvah. Every day has this specific mitzvah. So I want to talk about these three periods that we're referring to. We have the period of Pesach, where we left Mitzrayim. We have the period of Shavuot, where we're receiving the Torah. And then we have this intermediary period where we're trying to bridge Pesach to Shavuot. And this is the period of Sfirat HaOmer, of counting the Omer, getting from Pesach until Shavuot. Now there's a phrase in the book of Song of Songs, Shir HaShirim, which says, Mashcheni acharecha, which means draw me after you, narutza, and we will run, havienu hamelech hadarav, the king has brought me into his chamber. And this phrase, this pasuk, this verse from Shir HaShirim is explained as these three different time periods. So first we have Mashcheni acharecha, draw me after you, Vinarutza, and I will run, Havienu hamelech hadarav, the king has brought me into his chamber. The time period of Mashcheni, draw me acharecha, draw me after you, is considered the time period of Pesach. Narutza, we will run, is the time period of Sfirat HaOmer, this counting of the Omer. Havienu hamelech hadarav, the king has brought me into his chamber, is the holiday of Shavuot. So these three time periods, let's look at these, what the verse is saying. And it is very interesting. Mashcheni acharecha, we say, God, draw me after you. When did we say, God, draw me after you? By the holiday of Pesach. We're asking God, God, draw me out. Take me out of this place. The only way that we got out of Egypt was that God actually took us out of Egypt. He pulled us out. He pulled us out of that place. And it says not only that, but God had to come himself. Had God come had an angel come, had God sent an angel or a messenger to take us out, it says that the messenger would have been steeped into Mitzrayim too. Physically, we're talking about, emotionally, spiritually, the place was a place that you just couldn't get out of it. It was so steeped in impurity and so steeped in all this darkness, you just couldn't come out of it. So God had to actually draw us out. He pulled us out. So Mashcheni acharecha, we're saying, God, please draw us after you. Take us out. And that refers to Pesach, when God actually pulled us out. He pulled us out of that place. And then Narutza, we will run. What happened when Paro finally said, okay, he's letting the people out? They ran. They ran out with such a hurry. It says they left in such a hurry that the matzah actually baked on our shoulders, right? We were in such a hurry. Why did we have to run? If Paro's letting us out, after all he's seen,
Before he regretted.
We trust him. Not really to trust.
We weren't really to trust him. That's definitely a way that we could look at it. But the commentaries say even more. But they were saying even more. We were running because it was part of us. We were running from ourselves, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, Narutza, we had to run because it's like they say, you can take Brooklyn out of. You can take
the girl out of
Brooklyn.
You can't take Brooklyn out of
Thank you. Okay.
Or the Bronx,
right?
Okay.
Okay. So we would say you can take the girl out of Egypt, but you can't take Egypt out of the girl. Because the culture, we were so steeped in the darkness, in the impurity, it says we reached Memtet Shari Tuma, the 49th level of impurity. We were so low in Egypt. We fell so low understandably, because we were surrounded by such depravity, such corruption, such worship of idols, such an impure place that we were in, that God had to actually draw us out. And that's the only way that we could get out. But then Narutza, we had to run. We were running for our lives because this was part of us. You know, when you're not comfortable with who you are, you have to run. You're feeling so like you can't sit still. We had to run because this was part of us. We were scared that we were going to be there a moment longer. We would have been completely sabotaged. We would have been so much a part of it. So we say, Mashcheni acharecha, please draw us out, because only God could take us out of such a place. And then Narutza, then we were running from it because we were really running from ourselves. And then finally we get to Shavuot, where the king has brought us into his chamber. And these three stages refer to Pesach, Sfirat Omer, where we're running, where we're trying to do something, and by the time period of Havienu Hamel Chadara, the king has brought me into his chamber, is the time period of Shavuot, where we receive the Torah. Now, when we say, it's interesting, what do we eat? I mean, Judaism is full of what we eat, right? It's full of food as symbols. So what do we eat on Pesach? Matzah. No chametz. We clean our house of chametz, no leaven at all, only matzah. On Shavuot, interestingly, the sacrifice that was brought was called shtei halechem. It was 2 loaves of bread. That was the sacrifice that was brought. And it needed to be from leaven. In fact, all the sacrifices, except for on Pesach, everything was always leaven. It's only on Pesach that we cannot eat chametz. The period in between, Sfirat HaOmer, actually, we count the days of the Omer, but it actually refers to also a karban that we brought during that time period. Anyone know what it was made out of? Barley. Omer. Barley. It was made out of barley.
It's very lowly.
Very lowly. So lowly that it's considered what?
For animals.
For animals, an animal food. And this is the only time that you see sacrifices that were made out of barley, that were so lowly. Every other time, it's, you know, it was all shtei halechem. It was all made of pure, beautiful flour. It was only the Sfirat HaOmer, the barley that was brought was from animals. And the reason for that is because we are working during Sfirat HaOmer on our animalistic self, on the part of ourselves that's animalistic. The part of ourselves that's holy, the divine soul, is always holy and pure. That part of ourselves is completely untainted no matter what. And that's a part of ourselves that's always a part of us. We should always feel like this is who we really are. But there's another part of ourselves, that's the animalistic part of ourselves, the egotistical part of ourselves, the part of ourselves that can really be angered and that can really feel an ego and could really feel like I need and me and me and me, and that's the part that envies your friend when she has something that you don't have. It's the part of us that's very animalistic. And this part of ourself is the part that we're working on. We're working on this during Sfirat HaOmer. We're working on it during the counting of the Omer so that we can reach the period of we're at Mount Sinai. We're ready to receive the Torah at Mount Sinai. So we bring a barley offering to resemble that animalistic part of ourselves that we need to work on ourselves. Now what's interesting is that when we work on the animalistic part of ourselves, it also works on our spiritual part of ourselves. You might think, oh, like the spiritual part is always holy, which it is. So why does it also need to work on the animalistic part of ourselves? Because it's, and really this is a little bit how we can understand the exile that we're in. When a person is full of hate, that's a very strong passion. I mean, we see that, unfortunately. The people who are protesting and full of hate are coming with such passion and such strength. And I mean, it's horrific, but they're screaming and yelling and they're full of that energy. The people who are full of love are so much quieter. Mm-hmm. We're just like, this is who we are. We're so much quieter. So what we're trying to do is we're trying, you know, it says like, can a person love as much as someone hates? It's very hard. Can a person run away from darkness as much as he could run towards light? When you're scared and terrified, you run as fast as you can. So the idea is that when the divine soul, which is very thoughtful, calm, when it can have the the strength, the passion of the animalistic self, when we can channel our animalistic selves and our animalistic emotions and our animalistic ideas to the proper way, then both of the animal soul and the godly soul have this tremendous strength. When you use both together, that is when you become extremely strong. And that's the whole purpose of why we're here in exile, why any of us were born. It's not so we can, it's not so that we can clarify or change the godly soul, because the godly soul is holy. It's so that we can channel and use that animalistic part of ourselves. And that's why Judaism is full of physical things. We're not just, on a mountain sitting and praying all day long and forgetting about the world. We're using the world. We're channeling the world. We're using our animalistic aspects for a godly purpose. And that's the beauty of Judaism. So when we say, Mashcheni acharecha, God, draw me after you, narutza, and we will run. If you look at the book, the grammar of it, the grammar is incorrect. How is it incorrect? One is singular and one is plural. We say, God, draw me after you, draw me after you, and we will run.
Yeah, it's
Singular and then plural. God, draw me after you, narutza, and we will run. So what does this mean? It means, Mashcheni acharecha, God drew us out. We're talking about our divine soul got drawn out. Narutza, we ran because we're working now with our animalistic self and our divine self. We're working with both souls in order to get to the point of Shavuot, of going to the king's chamber, of getting to the king's chamber. Now, interestingly, we see that, and this all this is a little bit high, but we're going to bring it down. We're going to get to the practical messages. So really, this is a message for us in how we live our lives. There are times in our lives when we really need to run. We need to run from something. When you change lanes on a highway, or you're trying to get into, you're ever like trying to get your car, you're changing lanes, or you're turning, and you're trying to get into the traffic, and really when you're changing lanes and trying to get into the traffic that's going so quickly, you would think that you'd slow down because you're changing lanes. No, but what do? Speed up. You gotta speed up. You gotta run into there, right? Otherwise you're never gonna get there. I remember the first time I was like trying to get onto this busy street or a highway, and I'm like waiting and waiting and waiting, and there's this big truck behind me, and I'm like, oh no. He's like beeping away like, come on lady, right? You gotta go, you gotta just like move right into it. And this is sometimes how we have to look at things as well. When a person is trying to make a big change in their life, there's a point in your life where there are times when you need to do it with contemplation and think about it and do it slowly, but there's also a point where you sometimes have to just jump right in, right? If you're going into a swimming pool and you put your little tiptoe in, and then you go a little further till your ankle, and no good. Or you just jump right in, and that's the way you tackle it. So when we left Egypt, we had to run. We had to run away from the situation because we're trying to make such a change in our lives. And when you're making such a huge change, you have to sometimes go cold turkey. It's like when people stop, when someone's an addict and they're smoking, or when you stop drinking, you have to stop cold turkey.
Yes.
Not just, okay, I'm gonna stop drinking. I'm usually drinking so much that I'm going to stop drinking 5 bottles of whatever, and I'm going to go down to 4. No, that's not the way you do it. You got to stop cold turkey. If you're a drug addict, same thing. You got to stop cold turkey. If you're smoking, same thing. You got to jump.
Is chocolate also?
No, not chocolate. But these are situations where you got to just jump right into it. And that's why Narutza, we ran for our lives because we were leaving Egypt. We ran for our lives. Once you finish that running and you've jumped into a new situation, then you could start thinking about it. Then you could start applying it. Then you could start saying, how does this fit into my life? Not only how does this fit into my life, but how can I use my own qualities to now enhance the situation? So for example,
Someone's car.
someone's car. So
Oh. Maybe
I
here.
have to tell my husband,
Yeah.
how are you? How are you?
Ah,
just
hello.
another few minutes.
Only a few minutes? Till when? No.
No, well, I'm not sure exactly, maybe 15 minutes or so?
No. That's okay?
So, having come pick me up in a half hour?
So, when we talk about, we're okay, we're good? Continue?
I apologize.
Okay. So let's talk about Pesach, right? Pesach, we say, we're only eating chametz, right? Because we're trying to achieve a complete change in our lives. We're trying to actually become free. We were slaves, and now we're trying to get free. So we only eat chametz. We only eat matzah. No chametz. No chametz. No chametz at all. We only eat the matzah. The chametz represents our bloated self, our sense of self, and we're saying we're just going to run into this. We're just jumping right into this. We're just jumping into this newfound freedom, this newfound way of life. But Shavuot comes a point where we're actually saying, now we're using the challah. The same thing that we were running away from on Pesach, where we cleaned our house and made sure there's not a drop of chametz, not a little tiny crumb, nothing anywhere around. Shavuot, we're taking that same thing and we're celebrating with it. Shtei halachim, 2 big loaves of bread, very fluffy bread, right? The beautiful kind of bread.
Let me ask you something. Why do we eat also dairy for
Shavuot, so that's a different reason. That's a different. Yeah. We'll talk about that. But we take the shtei halachim, the bread, and we say, now we're ready to embrace ourselves. Now we're ready to embrace our personality. Now we're ready to embrace all aspects of ourselves. There are times when you're trying to make changes in your life where you say, or let's take a diet, right? You're dieting. There are times when you want to clear out your house of everything, all the snacks, all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But that's not so sustainable. It comes a point where you say, okay, now I'm going to do everything in moderation. Now I'll have a little bit, a little of this, a little of that. I'll embrace the new foods. I'll embrace the new recipes. Shavuot is that time period when we say, we can now embrace our unique personalities. We can now embrace who we are because we're now learning how to use our personalities. There was a point where we needed to completely run away from Egypt, completely run away from that atmosphere. And that's why the food that we eat is only matzah, which represents food of faith, something of faith. But now we want to take our unique selves, and that's what the shtei halachim, the bread is. It's full of self, it's full of air, it's full of who I am. Judaism isn't about deflating you. Judaism is about you use your unique self. You use your unique characteristics. You use your unique story and your unique journey in life. Don't run away from it. Embrace it. Once you learn how to adjust to, once you learned your lesson from your story, now you embrace it. You know, it's like we hear so many stories of people who have, like this woman who I interviewed who was on drugs as a teenager. You know, she was on drugs, she was put into prison, and then she found God there, she found spirituality there. And once she's done all her work, now she's helping people who went through exactly what she went through. She's embracing her journey to now help others. She's using that very journey that she went on that you might be afraid of, or that you might say, I'm ashamed of it, or I don't want to have anything to do with that. No, that's not what Judaism is. Take that very journey, take those very things that you had to learn something from. Once you learn what you need to do, once you've done your inner work, take those very qualities and now use them for something positive.
It's another phase of personality refinement.
Exactly. It's the personality refinement. So for example, let's say someone has anger issues, right?
Shared out the different spheroids.
Spirit, yes. So let's say someone has anger issues, right? First thing is, okay, like you somehow have to run away from those anger issues. Once you've done your inner work, you can use those aspects of your passion, your excitement, you're feeling very emotional about things, use it for a positive thing. That's what Judaism is about. So on Pesach, we had to run away from the slavery. We were running away from ourselves, from that aspect of ourselves. During Sfirat Omer, we're trying to refine ourselves, and that's why we're working on our animalistic part of ourselves, and that's why we bring that barley offering, because it's like an animalistic thing. And then we get to Shavuot, where we're at the point where we can actually embrace all parts of our personality, because at this point we're trying to learn how to use all aspects of ourselves, all aspects of our journey in a positive way. And with that, I want to go into what are those different parts of ourselves that we're refining. Because it says, Kabbalistically, there are 10 sfirot, which means there are 10 lights or ways of channels of which God created the world. The first 3 are cognitive, which is not what we're dealing with right now. The next 7 are emotional aspects of our lives. And it's these 7 that we're refining from Pesach until Shavuot. Every week we're taking a different quality, a different characteristic, and we're trying to refine that part of ourselves. That entire week we're working on that aspect of ourselves until we get to Shavuot, where we're ready to say, okay, now we can work with all aspects of our personality. And so if we want to get a little Kabbalistic, let's talk about those 7 different sfirot that we have. And they really resemble as well the human body. So we said there's the 3 cognitive, which we're not going to go into right now, and then we have the 7 emotional ones. And those are chesed, which is the right hand. Chesed means, what does chesed mean?
Kindness.
Kindness. It means giving. It's your attribute of giving to somebody. You want to reach out to others. You want to reach out to people. You want to extend yourself. You feel that love for somebody.
Chesed is to give.
To
right?
give.
It's not kind, it's to give, right?
It's giving, but it comes from
Giving.
kindness because you're kind.
Because, okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Chesed.
trying to...
Chesed, you're giving, you're kind. It's
Yes.
that aspect of benevolence and wanting to reach out to others. Sounds like a great quality, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes
Balanced.
it's not balanced. Sometimes you're too much giving. You're so much giving that you're neglecting your family, right? You're giving to everybody. Would you say that that's a good quality? The person this mother who's taking care of everybody, and she's involved in all kinds of different programs and projects and she's the world's savior, but her own kid is at home crying their eyes out because they have no mom. That's not kindness. That's the opposite of kindness. So chesed, kindness, has to be tempered by the next quality, which is gevura. Gevura means withholding. It's strength and it's also withholding. It's creating boundaries. A gibor, someone who's strong, someone who creates boundaries, somebody who says, I'm withholding. I need to give what I see is appropriate to give. I'm focused more inward. Chesed is focused outward. Gevura is more focused inward.
Gibor is not a hero?
It's a hero, but gevura is also strength. It takes
Okay.
strength to withhold. So, are we okay?
Yeah, the car has parked all the way furthest, like next door neighbor, that's one that's beeping.
Oh.
Down that way.
Yeah, that way.
And the wisdom to know.
They say
And that's what we're gonna get to, yes, that's Tiferet, yes. Yes. Okay, and that's what so Chesed is the right hand, Gevura is the left hand, Tiferet is the part in the middle. And Tiferet means beauty. What is beauty? Beauty is the quality, when something's beautiful, it has every part of it. Something beautiful has all the different colors, all the different mixtures. Something that's beautiful has both the chesed and the gvura. It's the empathy. So for example, let's say chesed would be, you see a person on the street needing money. Chesed says, I'm going to give the person a handout. He's homeless. Gvura says, hold on. What's he going to use it for? Maybe he's going to use it for drugs. That's not a kindness. And Tiferes is saying,
What did you say? What?
Chesed is,
Yeah.
you
No,
see-
no, the other was Sfera.
Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet.
Tiferet.
Tiferet,
I'm
which
so-
is beauty. Beauty
Okay,
is,
yeah, I know.
so beauty is like, let me, Chesed says give him because he needs the money. Gvura says he's going to use it for drugs. Tiferet says, maybe I can have empathy for him and have the compassion to see where he is. Maybe I can buy him a sandwich instead, right? That would be the Tiferet. So Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet. Next we have the right foot, which is Netzach, the left foot, which is Hod, and Yesod, which is in the middle. Netzach is the right foot forward. It's ambition. You want to succeed. You're trying to win. It's victory, right? It's the one that keeps on going, that victorious. Hod is the left foot. It's devotion. Not the, I'm gonna, Hey Vav Dalet, yes, Hod.
Hod Hadar.
It's devotion. It's
Devotion?
Devotion, humility. That's what Hod is, that humility. Netzach is the victory and the ambition. Hod is the devotion.
Netzach, I think it's...
Victory. Nitzachon, victory.
לא, נצח זה לתמיד.
It's also
נצח
tamid.
נצחי.
Yes.
נצח זה...
Yeah,
לנצח זה
לנצח.
לתמיד.
Yes, yes.
לנצח.
But this is the netzach of victory.
ניצחון.
Ninatzeach.
ניצחון.
Nitzachon. This is the victory, the ambition. The Hod is the humility and the dedication. And then the Yesod is the connection. So, for example, Netzach would be that person who goes in and wows the crowd, that speaker who goes in to speak for like 1 million people are listening, and they come in and they wow the crowd. They're the nitzachon. They have this ambition. They conquer the crowd. The Hod would be the teacher who goes in every single day to her students, day in, day out. The mother who takes care, day in, day out, with humility, not because of her own self or her own conquest that she's going to achieve, but every single day, coming in, coming out, day in, day out. And Yesod refers to the connection, the bonding, the way that we connect with another person. And finally, Malchus, which is the last of them, and this is the very feminine sphera, and this is the sphera that receives all the different colors of the other sphirot, all the 7 different sphirot from above, and it projects it into the world. So this is the sphera that receives. It's empty of its own. It's compared to the womb of the woman, and it receives in order to create something even bigger. So how these things refer to our own lives, there are times when you are the right hand, you want to give. There are times when you are the left hand, when you have to establish boundaries. There are times when you feel that you need to find that middle ground and find the empathy of what the other person is. There are times when you need to conquer and you're going forward and you're ambitious in your world. There are times when you need to find that humility to say, but how's it affecting everything else? Let me step back and smell the roses, because life isn't only about doing, it's also about feeling. And then the Yesod is, how do I connect with others and communicate with others? Malchus is that time when we actually are able to receive. It's very hard to receive, but we're actually able to receive. But in that receiving, we can give so much more. we can give to others so much more. That in a nutshell, in a really, really big nutshell, is the 7 sefirot and how we can incorporate them in our own lives and try to work on the different parts of our lives the parts that need to be giving more, the parts that need to be withholding more, the parts that need to see things from the other person's perspective, the part that's trying to succeed, the part that needs to say, hold on, step back, experience the process, the part that connects with others, and finally the part that is able to receive from others in order to then take care of yourself to give to others. So those are the things that we're working on in these 7-week period. This is a very special time period where we can work on ourselves to actually reach that summit, reach that Kabbalat HaTorah, reach the point where we're ready to receive the Torah. And again, when we're doing it, we need to keep in mind that there are times when we need to run away from ourselves, run away from certain aspects of ourselves, quit cold turkey, jump into a new scenario, and then there are times when we need to do it with more contemplation, thinking about what needs to be done, how it should be done, and how, most importantly, how can I integrate my own unique story, my own unique qualities, my own unique talents and characteristics into this world, because the world needs me for the reason that I was born, because I have my own unique mission. I have my own unique qualities and my own characteristics. Once I've done my work, I can actually look at how can I use my talents to create a better world.
Wow.
And that's what we're working on now.
Yeah.